How's everybody doing today? We are doing another in-depth guide, this time on the MG12 Lasgun. Now, this is a classic Lasgun build that's been around since Darktide came out. You know, it's not as strong as it once was, but it is a very fun, very skill-ceilinged build, as far as the fact is that you have to hit weak spots. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and hop into it. Now, I'm going to have a shorter build guide. If you're interested in only like a 5 or 6 minute build guide, it's going to be in the description down below, and hopefully it should pop up here in a card. And then I'll also have some gameplay, some example gameplay from me from a live stream that I will be doing after I make this video, posted somewhere around here in the description or whatever below. So your likes, comments, subscriptions are greatly appreciated, as the channel is pretty new. I want it to grow, and yeah, we're halfway to monetization. Big hallmark, you know. That'll be interesting to see. I appreciate all your guys' support. We could not be doing it without you guys. So, without further ado, we will get into our melee weapon. Our melee weapon of choice is the power sword. Really, either of them. I use the Mark VI, I believe is better than the other one, whichever mark it is, for clearing out hordes, but you can go with either of them. One has better horde clearing lights, and one has better horde clearing heavies. That's essentially it. I like this one because I think the lights are better, but I'm not entirely sure. But it doesn't matter. They're both great. Other options would be the chainsword would be fantastic, and also there's a lot of new shovels that I have not tested out. Those ones look actually really good as well. So if you have a good shovel, get shoveling. And so yeah. Modifiers. So we have damage. You want high damage, high cleave targets, and those tie in really well with our blessings, because having slaughter and power cycler, so you'll activate your energy sword attack, you'll clear out 3 or 4 or 5 enemies from a horde, and that will build up your slaughter stacks. And then if you have high cleave targets and high cleave damage, and then high damage of course, you actually find that you don't really need to activate your energy sword attack to keep choking through this horde. You can just go ahead and just keep using your standard light attacks, and it'll actually do really well. But what the build did struggle with is flak armored hordes, and that you might find you're spamming you're spamming your energized attacks a little more. And to help with that, we have taken more flak armor damage and more weak spot damage. So this weak spot damage helps just on every enemy in the game. It gives you a 10% boost to the weak spot damage boost. So that's a 10% boost to the damage boost on all enemies, which is nice to have. It gives you just a little bit more damage all around, because the build doesn't really struggle with anything else. Instead of melee weak spot damage, you can maybe take Maniacs, would be good as well. You don't really need Carapace. And then we have 20% flak armored enemies, because this helps us take out flak armored enemies a lot quicker. For Carapace armor enemies, and the reason you don't need Carapace armored enemies damage is because when you're going for weak spot hits on, let's say, a crusher, you can actually one cycle a crusher with this power sword. And what you'll do is you will push attack, you'll energize. In order to do this, you'll also need power cycler 4. But in order to do this, so you will energize your sword, you will push attack, you'll do the stab attack, which is the push attack, so you'll stab the weak spot on the crusher, and you'll go for 2 light attacks, and you should be taking out the crusher if you have the build exactly as I do. But, you know, you might also just be getting very close to killing the crusher, and you might have to hit him with 1 or 2 more energized attacks. But we also have crack grenades that you'll get to see later. So then we have slaughter. For our blessings, we have slaughter, and what's important on slaughter is on the power sword, you need something that's stacking either damage or power, preferably power, on hit or kill. Slaughter is the one that I have. You know, Slaughter 4 would probably be better. There's some other ones. As long as it's a blessing that's stacking power or damage on kill or hit, fantastic. You're doing great. You absolutely have to get Power Cycler. This is one of the most painful things in the game for me to get. It took me months of playing this game to get Power Cycler until this popped up in Milk's shop. And it's such a pain. It's very absolutely annoying mechanic. If you have Power Cycler 3, that's better than not having any Power Cycler. And if you don't have Power Cycler, I absolutely pity you. Maybe just use the chainsword instead. All right, moving on to the best part of this build, the MG12 Lasgun. So this is by no means the best loadout probably anymore for veteran. I mean, you could be running the plasma gun. It absolutely smacks, as well as this Columnus infantry auto gun, which I have a build on. Highly recommend you check it out. The Columnus is absolutely the most overpowered build, at least at the time of making this video, in my opinion. So, for the MG12 Lasgun, for being more of a sniper type character, we really want high damage and high stopping power, because stopping power greatly affects our armor penetration of capabilities. And what you'll notice on my build here is actually my ammo is my dump stat, and that would be because the Infantry Lasgun. And this used to work really well. It doesn't work as well now, so you might want to have a little bit better than 22% on the ammo. But if you have something like 40-50% roll on the ammo, absolutely plenty. It used to be that ammo was not such a problem for the Lasgun. It's a little harder for the Lasgun nowadays with the skill tree has been changed around from original Darktide. But you definitely want to have high damage and high stopping power. And the other 3 modifiers, you can get away with having, at least 50% on them, probably just fine. Stability is nice because you are trying to hit weak spots. So I like to have high stability. It makes it less annoying to use the weapon. And then we also have flak armored and ranged weak spot damage, You can't go wrong with it. We murder unyielding enemies. We take out maniacs fairly well as well. I mean, flak armor just gives us the one-shot potential on a lot of elite enemies, special enemies. And yeah, I mean, flak armor just seems like the obvious choice because we don't have problems with unarmored or infested enemies. Maybe maniac damage could be better, but you'll see in the Psykhanium in a little bit, that's also not the problem. And then we take range weak spot damage because we're going for weak spot shots, so weak spot damage is an obvious choice to take there, and we hit a lot of weak spot shots. So then we have our blessings, opening salvo. Opening salvo is great because it's a huge damage bonus. So opening salvo 3, there might be opening salvo 4, take either of those. And opening salvo is the first shot in a salvo. Now that salvo reset is actually fairly common. And I'll back out right now and show you guys, just since we're already in the Psykhanium. You'll watch down here at the bottom, there is a, I'll fire and it'll go gray and not. So you'll see just me shooting down here, it's flashing at the bottom of the screen. That's how fast it is to reset the salvo. So shoot him. Resets, shoot him, resets. It only takes like 1 second for that salvo to reset. So taking that opening salvo, sorry, I'm not really aiming. Taking that opening salvo is absolutely fantastic. You'll see we did not one-shot this maniac here, but on our build, if we step back a little bit, we will one-shot him probably. Yep, there he goes. All right, we'll get to that later when we get to the Psykhanium though. Don't get too excited. So we want that power from opening salvo. And then I'm taking Headhunter. You could also not go for crits on this build and instead go for something else, some other blessing that gives you plus power or immunity to range attacks on weak spot hits. So that would be Ghost, I believe, would also be really good. There's a lot of things you could take in that slot. Really whatever you think makes the build the best. I'm taking this crit chance, but that can be re-rolled into something else. It's not a huge deal because the crits on this build aren't what make the build the best. It's just the fact that this gun hits for a lot of weak spot damage consistently. So then we'll get into the Curios. For the Curios, I'm taking a stamina. You could probably get away with not running a stamina. Maybe run a wound instead of the stamina, but I'm using a stamina. We've got block efficiency, damage resistance to gunners. I've got sprint efficiency on here. That's fine. You don't really probably want it, but whatever. And then what you do want to take is plus. All right, well, so then we have our health curio, and on our health curio, I always take plus health on our health curio so that we have that like themed in there that we have the health curio. We have block efficiency. That's fantastic. Toughness, regeneration, speed. Don't need that. Just take plus health, plus block efficiency, plus toughness, or plus health, block efficiency, toughness, and maybe Orthodocus or damage resistance to gunners. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. So overall, I have a stamina, a health, and a toughness curio. Maybe swap one of those out for a wound if you need it. And for the toughness curio, I would say take, this is a rare occasion, I would actually say take the toughness curio over the max health curio. And that would be because as a veteran, as long as your toughness is not broken, you're not going to be taking a lot of damage. So having extra toughness as a veteran is extremely important because you're taking range fire, and the range fire won't do any actual health damage to you until your toughness is broken. So as long as your toughness is not broken, you can stay out in the open shooting at other ranged enemies. So now we will get into the talent tree. We're going to take this path to the left because it gives us long shot, and that's really great for us. Now, there are confirmed kill and things in the middle here, so you could come through the middle as well, but this long shot really does help us, especially since we're going for weak spot shots on the MG XII Lasgun, and this is what's giving us a lot of one-shot ability, especially on opening. When you walk into a room and you see a lot of enemies, you can open up some quick weak spot shots from a long distance before they run up to you, and this ranged long shot 20% bonus actually does quite a lot. Excuse me. So then we have Exhilarating Takedown. You could take Volley Adept if you wanted to, but I highly don't recommend it because we don't have to reload a whole lot on this build, and it's not a very long, not a very long reload in the first place. So then we have a health boost. That's great. 15 toughness. That's fine. Crack Grenade. You'll notice that this build does not have a lot of Ogren Crusher killing potential. So we want to take the Crack Grenade. I would highly recommend it. You could also take the Shredder Frag Grenade. To be honest, I think it's viable on this build. But for making quick work of Crushers and not having to go into melee combat, now we do have our Energy Sword, our Power Sword, so you can just do that combo on most Crushers with the Power Sword, and that'll probably take care of them. But the Crack Grenade is a much less risky, much easier way to get a lot of carapace killing power out of. It's also good for taking on monstrosities and other large high value targets that are being annoying. It's a great stop annoying character weapon. But like I said, you can take the Shredder if you really want to. So then we have our health boost. Now I just changed the build a little bit, and so I'll go over that later in the tree, but I really like having this plus 10% melee damage and agile engagement because this allows you to switch from your ranged into your melee and go to town for a second, or go from your melee into your range and go to town for a second with that. 25% damage bonus is a very large bonus. That's a very hefty bonus. So having that put together really allows your vet to do a lot of damage bursts, high damage bursts in melee when needed, which is very important. So then we take plus 5% range damage, and I'll show you what I did to get to this point in the tree, because you'll find that in this build we are strapped for points. So we have plus 5% range damage, okay. Toughness per second, that's fine. You know, we're really just coming through here. You could take the stun immunity if you'd prefer, which could actually be good considering that, you know, we are in ranged combat. But I'd have to say it's not the best because, or where was I going with that? I don't remember. Nah, X that. Anyways, we'll take Survivalist. Survivalist is by far better than the other two auras in my opinion. 5% movement speed. I mean, come on, that's pitiful movement speed boost. And then plus 5% damage for you and your allies and coherence. See, that's not bad, but it's 5. It's 5% damage. I mean, we get 25 from this one passive, so 5% damage is, you know, Okay, then we have reload speed. That's fine. We just kind of have to come through reload speed. You know. And so we have 5% toughness damage reduction here on replenish one grenade every 60 seconds. If you find you're not using all your crack grenades, you find you don't run out of grenades, you know, you can save these 2 spots and go somewhere else. But I wanted to buff up my crack grenade attainment, my storage of crack grenades. I want to be able to use those a little bit more often. We have passive kill zone. 15% base range damage when there are no enemies within 8 meters. Now this one, Kill Zone, pairs very nicely with Long Shot. 8 meters is not really that far in the game. If you go into the Psykhanium, you can tag an enemy and walk 8 meters away from them, and it'll say it next to their like character name, like there's a Dreg Rager or whatever. It'll say like 8 meters away. It's not that far, so this bonus can be up quite a lot. We're taking Executioner's Stance, and you know, these other 2 abilities are actually great for the veteran, but this is an Executioner's Stance build, and I wanted it to be that kind of a build. So for Executioner Stance, ooh, is there a sneeze? Yes, there was. Oh my goodness. Okay, back on track. So we have Executioner's Stance. This is going to highlight all of your ranged enemies, and it'll highlight, what does it actually highlight without any bonuses? Enter range stance for 5 seconds, automatically equip your ranged weapon, 25% range damage, 25% weak spot damage, and your spread and recoil are greatly reduced. Human-sized elite enemies and specialist enemies are highlighted. Okay, so that's just elites and specialists, not all ranged enemies. Then we come down here, and we take Executioner Stance. Now outlines all ranged enemies. That's fantastic. Now, there is the bigger they are that outlines Ogrins, but you can't take both of these at the same time because Darktide doesn't want you to have fun or something. I don't know. And it honestly would not make this ability overpowered whatsoever. It'd still be it's definitely not as good as Voice of Command, but for this, the theme of this build is going for weak spot and whatnot. So we're definitely taking Executioner's Stance because of that weak spot and damage bonus. So outline all enemies, and then you absolutely have to take Relentless. You know, using this ability without Relentless is essentially almost a complete waste. Now, Executioner stance now outlines elite and specialist enemies for allies in coherency. I typically skip this one. You can just ping them for your enemies. If you're running like a blackout mission or a ventilation purge mission, this is really good to just pop on for the one mission. But I definitely wouldn't run this on missions that don't have special modifiers, or sniper missions as well are nice to have this because your whole team can see all the snipers through walls. There will be times where you click F and you'll see like 8 snipers through a wall, and your whole team can see that. That's helpful for the team. But like I said, just pop this out in special circumstances. It can make a lot of your games a lot easier. And then you have to take Relentless because it refreshes the duration of your ability by 5 seconds every time you kill an outlined enemy. So you're just popping at weak spots on all those guys. Fantastic. Why it's like this? I don't know. Without it, I think this node could use some work. Let's go with that. All right, continuing on. We have plus 5% range damage. Fantastic. We need suppression immunity. Absolutely necessary because we're going for weak spot shots. If you don't have suppression immunity, you will not. You won't be able to hit anything. Your gun's you're gonna be suppressed. It's gonna suck. So you have to take that. We get another 30% weak spot damage. So we have 30% weak spot damage here. And if we're in our stance, we have 25% weak spot damage here. And then our weapon has weak spot damage bonus plus 10%. We are stacking major amounts of weak spot shots. We have plus 25% ammo. That's good because I have a 20% ammo roll, and we have to come through here anyways to get down to the bottom. We have plus 15% damage to elites. That's nice. It's going to help take down some elites enemies a little bit faster. A lot of the elite enemies also have flak armor, so we have plus flak armor damage plus elite damage. That really stacks well together. And so then we have marksman on ability use plus for 10 seconds weak spot hits gain 20% power. So then again, we have this power bonus. We have our executioner stance weak spot damage. We have like 3 or 4 things rolling into weak spot damage bonuses. So we do a ton of weak spot damage bonus. Then we have 10% toughness damage reduction. That's nice. Or you can take the stamina reduction. I think the toughness damage reduction is much better. Now, there is this shock trooper over here. Crit hits with las weapons consume no ammo. This is really good on other Lasgun builds. The MG XII is particularly ammo efficient, so I'm not actually running that. But if you do have problems with your Lasgun running out of ammo, as such, say that you're running the MG1A, I think is what it's called. It's very similar to the MG XII, but it shoots a lot faster, but it's still semi-automatic. Crit hits with the las weapons could be much more useful for you. So then we get down. I'm using Marksman's Focus. Ranged weak spot kills grant 3 stacks of focus, up to 10 stacks. Sprinting, sliding, and walking remove stacks. That's kind of lame. But anyways, each stack of focus grants 7.5% finesse power and 1% reload speed. Now, we are running on our Infantry Lasgun Headhunter, which gives plus 20% crit chance on weak spot hit until your next crit. Stacks 5 times. So on your 5th shot, that's a 100% crit shot chance if you haven't hit it already. Generally, you'll be hitting it around your 3rd shot, statistically speaking. Your 3rd shot, definitely. Your 4th shot, most definitely. And your 2nd shot, you might hit it. So odds are you'll be hitting it on average around your 3rd shot. Anyways, ranged weak spot kills let you move without losing stacks for 3 seconds. Ranged weak spot hits let you move without losing stacks for 1 second. I honestly don't worry about losing stacks. You'll stack them up a lot on this build anyways. And then I take the long range assassin, which increases your max stacks from 10 to 15. Now that's a nice bonus to have. You're increasing your max stacks from 10 to 15. That gives you just a little bit more of that ranged power. And we honestly already do a ton of weak spot damage. And if you really want to, I would say, honestly, forget about Marksman Focus, forget about long range assassin, forget about toughness damage reduction. This 10% rending, honestly, not useful at all. We have a Lasgun. What do we have problems with? We really only carapace armored enemies. You're gonna this 10% rending. It doesn't stack. No. And then tunnel vision, 2.5% toughness replenishment for each stack of photos. But it's actually not bad. But what I would say is you could actually just get rid of 1, 2, 3, all 3 of these nodes if you wanted to. And I'm running them because I want to run this Marksman's Focus build just to have a little variety. We don't have to run the most meta things all the time because then the game gets really boring. Okay. Because then you do the same thing over and over every game. So what I would do is maybe chop those 3 off And you know, I chopped some other points off to get over to here, so you could chop the. Oh, actually no, I keep the melee, but you know, this demolition stockpile and this guy, you could chop them off. You could chop these 3 guys off, and you know, over here we have combat ability. Gives you and your allies in coherency 10% melee base damage and 10% range base damage for 5 seconds. So, you know, we're going to use our Executioner stance. We get another 10% base damage there. And it also gives it to our teammates, which is nice. 10% is an actual significant amount of damage bonus. And then, you know, we need the combat ability cooldown reduced by 6 seconds on specialist enemy kills. So when you're using your ability Executioner stance here, and you're hitting a lot of weak spot shots, killing a lot of ranged and specialist and elite enemies, you know, you're decreasing the time before you get to enter Executioner stance again, which is fantastic. So, what did we do just before that? We went ahead and cleared up 5 talent points. Now we can come over here and maybe pick some other cool stuff that we wanted to take. Like, you know, you can get even better grenades, or, you know, you can grab some more toughness or movement speed bonuses up here at the top of the tree. You know, this one in particular has a lot of bonuses. Or you could get all the way down to focus target and use focus target instead of marksman's focus. I'm going to use marksman's focus, but you know, you could use focus target and I would do the 8 stacks of, let's see, what can we get all the way down here? Yeah, so you can down here and select one of these, and if you really want to, you can shave off a point somewhere else and take like 2 of the focus fires. All right, so let me show you guys how I would build this. So. You take for the Emperor, you take the tactical awareness. We don't need suppression really, because we can't get suppressed. I mean, you don't want suppression because if they're dodging and running away, actually, it's going to make you very hard to hit their weak spots because they're going to be doing all this like hiding and whatever, and it'll be annoying. Allies and coherency, yeah, whatever. Toughness damage reduction if above 75% toughness. This is actually pretty good. This will help keep you out in the open against ranged enemies longer, so I would definitely take that. Let's see. You know, replenish a grenade, that's fine. 10% toughness. Yeah. We get 25 toughness there, that's fantastic. 10% rending to all weapons. Interesting. So, you know, if you got this 10% rending to all weapons here, then you got this 10% rending when at or over 10 focus stacks, now you have 20% rending. You could like kind of roll that together. Honestly, mid in my opinion. Still be mid, and then I definitely take this damage to Ogryns and Monstrosities. Absolutely, that's a huge damage bonus, 20%. Woo wee! And you know, if you really want to, you could even come over here to this right stack. I wouldn't bother doing that for me personally because it's all melee focused, and we're not really doing that. We're ranged, and we want to stay at range. And then we have, you know, then you can take focus target. I would, you know, honestly, we already do a ton of damage. I might actually just take this tagged enemy toughness replenishment because honestly, we do a ton of damage already, and you know, we don't really need to increase to 8 stacks because we already do a ton of damage already as well. So having 5 stacks is absolutely plenty to apply onto a tagged enemy. So you could do target takedown. You know, honestly, I really like this. I might come back to this. That looks like a great setup for me personally. I think that looks really fun. Let's see. Replenish a grenade every 60 seconds. You know, that just sounds nice. You know, this is only marksman focus is only helping you with finesse power and reload speed. So, you know, the reload speed we could really care less for, and the finesse power is just crit hits, and we already one-shot a lot of stuff in the game. So having this marksman focus really not super necessary. What it would be really great for is for a Hellbore Lasgun build. You know, I'm going to use it for this build because I think it's kind of fun. But like I said, you could absolutely come through this focus target build, and that is probably a better all-around consistent build. But, you know, I use focus target on everything, so we're going to change it up a little bit. But like I said, that's my recommendation on that. Where did I have these 2 other points at before? Where did I... Well, what? Oh, yeah, here we go. Our grenade replenishment. Grenade replenishment is pretty nice to have. So, now I will take you guys into the Psykhanium, and we will do a little run around before the end of the video. And if you want to see more about, you know, gameplay examples of how I use this build, check out the in description below. I will have a link to a past live stream. You know, subscribe, comment, like all that good stuff, you know, but turn on your notifications so you actually come to live stream. We actually, every time we live stream, we get a few more viewers. I really appreciate it, guys. It's actually pretty fun. Oh, sorry, dude. So we currently have 15 stacks of marksman bonus or whatever because we had stored it up. But let me go ahead and just show you guys how much damage. Let's say we just have, you know, all right, so now we have 7 stacks of marksman bonus or whatever it's called. You know, can approximately 3-shot a... what is this guy called? A Reaper. Okay. Okay, well, I didn't mean... The game just knew I wanted to pull that out. So against a Crusher, you know, our damage is, I'd say, mediocre at best. It's quite bad. You know, against bulwarks, we can't do anything. We can't really open them up. This is when your crack grenades come in really handy, and this is why we're running that 60% refresh on the crack grenades, so that we can deal with these guys when we need to, when our teammates aren't helping out. Let's see. We have our... So this is the fun part about this build, is that, you know, when you see guys coming at you, you whip this out. I would like to see the veteran. The veteran used to have an ability that if you weren't moving, your threat level would be greatly reduced and enemies wouldn't target you as much. He also used to have an ability where he took essentially 0, basically, range damage while in his executioner stance, and that was very good as well. So we're not even using our ability right now, and you can see we do absolutely fantastic damage. Now the Hellbore Lasgun is quite good as well, and it really excels at taking down the couple really large enemies that we can, such as the Crusher and the Scab Mauler. We also struggle with slightly. So I'll go ahead and show you the Scab Mauler. We're not so great at taking down the Scab Mauler. Of course, now when these guys are coming at you, you can just whip out your Power Sword and annihilate them, quite frankly. So you'll have no problem dealing with the Crushers and whatnot if you have to in melee. So we definitely have two great answers to Carapace Armor. So if you're out of crack grenades, you know, you whip out the sword, and you can take care of business with the sword instead. Now, the sword's also great at killing, weak spot killing all these guys. But that's really it for the build. You know, let's go ahead and I'll show you the Executioner stance as well. So you pop an Executioner stance. We've got a lot of guys highlighted. As you can see, we've got all these stacks giving us increased weak spot damage. In fact, maybe we have too many stacks, and you could probably roll spend them elsewhere, but you know, screw it. You guys can do the math on that if you really like to. We still struggle, as you can see, against Carapace, these Scab Maulers. So that's about it for the build, guys. I mean, there's not a lot more else I can show you in the Psykhanium here. You know, there's not a lot of complicatedness to this build. I think that's part of why it's one of the more classic ones. It's simple. It is the quintessential semi-automatic DMR click on enemy foreheads build for the better. Now, as you'll see, this is, you know, we come down to a point where, you know, do you even really need to take the, what's it called? Go back to the talent tree here. Do you even really need to take focus target? Not really. As you can see, we already do a ton of damage. We already 2 or 3 shot some guy. I mean, focus target, really necessary? No. So maybe Marksman's Focus is better, so you just have that crit damage multiplier and bonus or whatever. That's nice. Or honestly, you could get rid of those. Or you could go down this right tree and give yourself some melee bonuses to even more round out your character. You know, this build has a lot of, you know, come up with your own solutions to some things. There's some flexibility for sure. So, yeah, I guess we'll end it there. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will see you next time.